It is time now for all things current California politics, joined this week by the editor-in-chief of Capital Weekly publication, Rich Eisen. Rich, welcome. So, Rich, if every other state has its state employees back in the office, what is so different about California being the only state where many don't want to come back into the office? Why just California?
Well, I think it's due in great part because California is a very strong union state. Most of our state workers have very strong union representation, and the union, the SEIU in particular, is not fond of the idea of them coming back into the office. I think they feel it's a great cost savings to many of their members to not have the commute traffic, the child care costs, et cetera. So there's definitely a lot of pushback coming from the representation of union labor.
Would not state workers who are staying at home, with the advent of artificial intelligence, would that not put their jobs somewhat more at risk?
Well, it's certainly starting to look that way, isn't it? I mean, I think there is definitely, it's interesting because this particular governor is so tied into tech. I think that it has become an issue on the campaign trail for those looking to succeed Gavin Newsom. I think it's been one of the things that's maybe dogged Matt Mahan a little bit because of his connections to tech. Certainly the unions are very wary of him over that. I think it's going to ultimately play a little bit of a part in who comes out, out of this primary in June.
I know you watched the governor's debate, which was earlier this week. Did anybody do themselves good or do themselves more harm?
Interestingly enough, there were a couple this week. There was the big one down in Pomona, and there was also the Black Power Network had their own, which has some different candidates that are not polling high enough to make, ones like the Pomona one. I haven't seen anybody that did anything particularly outstanding to where they were, they have launched themselves in or out of the race any more than they already were. I know in the Black Power Network one, Tony Thurmond was generally seen as the winner, but I think he's still polling so low, it's not really going to be a big factor.
About 1%. So let's go to the latest poll for governor. Is economy still the top driver in this poll? And the poll that we're going to share, 14% are still undecided. When will they decide? Like election day?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are really disconnected. There was another poll that just came out. There's polls coming out all the time, but there was an IGS poll that came out that showed about 25% of voters, or people who have voted in the past, are contemplating not voting at all this time. I saw a different poll today that showed Becerra actually up in the mid-20s now. So, I mean, their polls are all over the place. I do think a lot of people are struggling with this many candidates, and how in the world do you tell the difference between, all of these different people trying to get your attention?
Yeah, there are 61 candidates that you'll see on the ballot when you go to vote.
Yeah.
That's crazy. All right.
Yeah.
Rich Eisen, Capital Weekly. Rich, thank you.